Okay. Okay, I think we are on YouTube. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good. So let me wait a little bit. See, some more people are gonna join. Did everyone here? Was everyone here able to run the code with no errors?
You're talking about the class 2 code, right?
The class 2 and then Tom's code as well, which is class 1, I think. Well, one is chapter 2 and the other one is class 1.
Yep.
I'm actually gonna start with class 1 from Tom, just because his code has some very basic things. It's not really that much about his class, but more about little things in R itself. And then we go to chapter 2. I talked with Fernando. He said that it's fine for me to do the first exercise from the homework with you. So that's what we're going to be doing next week, because the first homework is not due and you still have a couple of weeks for that, right? Or no, does anyone know when that's due?
I think it's the week after next.
Yeah, okay, so next Friday we'll be doing one of the exercises, although I think for everyone it might be worth trying to do on your own already before. We are already gonna look into the LM function today. Okay, so I'm gonna start sharing my R screen. Everyone sees it?
Yes.
Okay, let me see it better. Good. I always have a problem with this. The zoom bar is on top of what I need. Okay, so you can see that I have a mess here. I have a bunch of stuff open. That always happens.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so your sessions on Fridays, they're just to like pretty much extra help, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I can let people know a little bit what is gonna happen. I will always like send an email letting you know more or less what I'm gonna be covering. And as I mentioned before, if you do not want to join because you feel like you already know the things I'm gonna go through, you don't feel like you need the help, but for any reason you do need help with something else in R, or if you're having some trouble related to the classes, but that you don't think that you want to join the section itself, you're still welcome to send me an email and have an office hours and try to go through specific problems. So I am trying to run the Friday sessions starting from a very basic level, so I don't have anyone falling behind. But if anyone here feels like they already know the things I'm going through and want to skip a few sessions, and then whenever I mention that I'm going to be doing something that they actually think it's going to be helpful to them, you can join at any time. So there's really no attachments here, and I really want everyone to feel comfortable shooting me an email, asking questions about R throughout the semester, regardless of what they are, and I'll try to help. So my plan is for this week and the next go through, well, today, go through the first code from Tom. Next week, I would go for the second code of Tom. And that's the only 2 codes he sent me. And then throughout the semester, we'll ask him if there are specific other things that he needs me to cover, or you can also let me know if you have exercises from him. And if you're working on a project and you need R for that project, specific things that you need for that. Ajit also contacted me saying that he wants me to cover some things on linear algebra, on eigenvalues and price of productions and the ONTF tables. And I'll do that. Not sure exactly when yet. He said that people in his class will need that in the beginning of October. So this should happen within the next few weeks as well. So because first you have Fernando's thing coming up, my plan is next week to go through his 3rd chapter and also go through the first exercise. So doing together the first exercise of your homework and going through the results, how to present the results and so on. And the second code from Tom. So that's what's going to happen next week. And then on the following week, I probably will already try to cover the thing that Ajit asked me to cover. Is everyone here also in microeconomics class? Is that also a core class for everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a little different than what we're doing here. So that one might be worth for everyone to join. But I'll email and let you know, and I'll also ask Ajit to let people in his class know about it. Any questions on kind of more general matters and material and so on? Okay, so everyone sees my R, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna start by actually clearing my environment here and the figure there.
If we loaded the data already, should we also clear it also to follow you?
Yeah, I think it would be worth clearing. So yeah.
Luiza, a quick question. We are using the data from Thomas' class, right?
Yes.
Do you know where we can get it if we are not enrolled in his course?
I sent an email with the attachment of everything.
Okay, well, I'll have a look. Thank you.
Is everyone here receiving my emails? I sent an email. Let me tell you the name of that email, because I created a mail list.
The name is section this week, office hours.
I received it.
Yeah. So this, well, let me.
September 9th at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Well, now you're gonna have a quick look of also how crazy my tabs on Google Chrome look like. Do you see my Google Chrome now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the email I sent. And supposedly I have everyone. I went through the list of people that are in Tom's and Fernando's class and added everyone to a mail list, which now I'm automatically sending email to because I created a label. So if you're not receiving, if you did not receive this email by me, please do let me know and I can add you to the mail list. But do that by sending me an email after class from the email you would like me to add to that list. Also, if you are receiving it in an email that I don't know, if you want to receive it in a different email, please do the same as well. Just send me an email saying, please add this email to the R workshop mail list, and I'll do that. So there you have the 3 codes, the 2 codes we're going to be using today and the data that we're going to be using today, which you should save whatever is the working directory that you chose, or if you save it somewhere, then you need to set the working directory to whatever you save it. This is basically what we did last week, how to set working directory and how to load data. So this data is an R data. So the way you load it, it's not read CSV or not read XLS. It's going to be a load and then just that. I'm actually going to start by showing something. Okay. So back to R. Where is R? Oh my God, so many things open. Here. Okay, so back to R now. Another thing, and I didn't show you this last week. I was gonna show at the end, but I didn't. You can, for importing data set, it's one of the few things you can actually use the import data set button here, or you can also open when it is a load. So I think this would also work. And you see that here, it gives you the load and already tells you where it is. So this is a shortcut. But as I mentioned before, contrary to Stata, R does not have that many buttons that you can be pressing and finding out how to do the code. And it's much better to have your code here on top, have everything organized, and then you can just run instead of having to go through buttons. But that's a personal preference regarding the loading. So for now, if anyone has trouble actually just using the load, which I would be able to do because I already have set my working directory to where the data is, please just go ahead and use the button. I don't know if you see when I press the open here, what happens. You probably do. Okay, so anyone was not able to load the data? Okay, so, oh, sorry.
I'm still not there yet, but I will take 1 more minute.
Okay. Actually, this comes up a little later on the code, so it's not too much. It's mostly, yeah, we don't need the data yet. So the first thing on this code is just showing you that R is a very sophisticated calculator. So you can calculate things. And one thing that is interesting in R is when you do a certain command, when you run a function or when you do something, just putting that there, this is not storing anything. So when I do here 2 times 2, it's going to tell me how much 2 times 2 is. This is asking R to run this calculation and just returns the output of this. But this is not being stored. You see that nothing changes on the global environment. While if I use this, whenever this, so the syntax of this little arrow going to the left just means assign the right value into an object called Y. So when I do that, I actually do not even see the result yet. All I see is that an object was created, in this case is a value called Y, and the value of that is 4. So when I then run the command Y here down, then it does the same thing that it did when I just said 2 times 2. So this is like a view what the value of Y is, or print Y, which would be actually very similar, I believe. Would also give you that value. Okay. So basically, someone when creating the program R told R that whenever you use the syntax star, this means that you're asking R to calculate for you how much is what is in the left side times what is on the right side. So this is a multiplication. So this is a shortcut for please multiply 2 by 2. Another thing you can do is actually use, sorry, so that would be the same thing for plus. If I do 2 plus 2, it will also give me 4. If I do sum 2 comma 2, it also gives me 4. And sum, differently from the sign plus, is a function. So functions in R, they always work in this way where you tell the name of the function and then you put a parenthesis, and inside that parenthesis, you put the arguments of the function. And the arguments of the function are going to depend on the type of function you have. And you can always just go and use the help, or, well, you can either use help sum or just this interrogation sign and sum, and that will prompt the help here. and explain how this function works. I've said that before. Anyways, but it also tells you a list of what are the arguments that you add to that function. So another thing that you can do is, instead of counting on functions that already exist in R, so let's say that actually you want to do something that there exists no function in R for what you want to do, and you're going to be repeatedly doing it many, many times, that you do not want to have to write a big code for every time that you do that. And there are plenty of times where I've created my own functions. So when it's something very specific that you want to do on your own code, let's say you want to sum and then multiply the sum of 3 values, and for some reason that's not something people are doing, so there doesn't exist a function that is that specific, and there is no package that actually have done this function. So then you can create your own function. There are some rules for creating your own function. The first thing is, you do not want to create a function that is called something that already exists. So I do not want to create a function called sum, because the function sum already exists. So in this code, Tom creates a function called squared, which is just going to multiply 2 numbers. So when you say squared, you mean x times x. So the square of x is x times x. So basically, he just created a function which is a function, and then here you're going to tell what are the arguments that are going in this function, and then you're going to tell within brackets what this function does. So when I run this part of the code here, I actually created a function. And here, when I click on that, it's going to tell you what this function does. Yes, Adama, do you have a question, or no? It just came up for some reason. Anyone, if you have any questions at any point, feel free to interrupt me and ask, please. So now, instead of saying that y, instead of assigning y 2 times 2 to get y, I could also just say that y is squared, and then, sorry, and then 2. Oh, sorry, typo, squared, not square. So whenever you don't have the function, it's going to tell you could not find function squared. And it does the exact same thing. So now I have an x that is called, that is 4, and my y is still 4 because I rewrote it as that. Whenever I have an object, so now I have an object y, which is 4, I could also just go and say, now let's say that y is squared 3. And it rewrites over. So whenever you assign to an object a value, and that object already exists, it is gonna overwrite it on your environment. So now y is 9, y is not anymore 4. Okay. Same with a function. If I rewrote this function, so let's say that I found a mistake here on my function and I need to run it again, and I want to change something in it. So for example, now I might want to do that my function, well, let me see if this works. So now I'm putting inside my function is within itself creating 2 different values, the sum and that. But if I run this, it's still going to do the same thing, because actually the only thing that this is returning, what I assign, the value that I assign here in the end is the return. This is what matters in a function. So now if I change this return to, I think this is going to be, sorry. So now when I change the return, I'm actually changing what my function, so these are things that my function are calculating while it runs. So when I say squared, anything that is in the middle here is going to be calculated. So I could even be doing things that are not happening at all, but this is happening within the function. So while running the function squared here, 4 was added to 6, but that doesn't even show up. But that doesn't create a problem. It just means that your R is going to be, if you create a function which has a bunch of stuff inside of itself, but it only returns something simple from it, it just means that you're using more calculating power, which can be a problem because it might, there is always a problem of if you create a very complex function, you want to try to make it the most simple that you can, so it doesn't take too long to calculate. So depending on what you're doing, it might be very long to calculate something, and then you want to take out anything that is just extra there. But I can actually assign values within the function that is never going to show up on my global environment unless it's part of the return. So now I change the function squared, and this function square is both summing and multiplying, and at the end, it returns both values to me. So it assigns to the object that I wanted both values, and it's giving that to me in the form of a vector with 2 different values. Okay? And then if I decide that, no, actually, that's not what I wanted to do. I really just wanted to be the squared and return b. So this is exactly the same as we had before, but now doing it differently. Instead of just returning it, creates an object within itself, but it's going to be the exact same thing as before. So different ways of doing the same things, and I mean it's a matter of taste as well and of style. It's like writing. People write differently even if they want to say the exact same thing. So, and as you can see, every time that I run again the command of creating this function, it just overwrites what the function does. So it's not really adding here a bunch of different functions and saving them as squared 1, squared 2, squared 3, or something like that. It always overwrites. So this is a very simple function, but it actually can be applied to different types of objects. So far, we've applied it to a number, just to the number 2, but I can always create a different object. So why now I'm creating an object which is a vector of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this actually has different numbers to it. And z is going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And when I use the squared over those, what I'm going to get is actually the square of each single of those values. And then I can go on and do more. So I can now square the ones that were squared. So now my x-axis is the square of the square. Okay? Everyone understands what was done here? Any questions? Am I going too fast or too slow? Okay, so now we created an object. Oh, I feel like someone was going to say something.
Luiza, I do have a problem.
What?
Like when I those commands, or I don't know how you call them, I don't, like, I can see in the lower left square the things I run, but I don't see any numbers showing up.
The outputs are not showing up for you? Is that what you mean?
And also like after creating these like variables, I guess, in the upper right part, I don't have any of these exactly. I don't have that. I have what we downloaded in the last session. So I don't know what to do.
Are you on an environment there?
Yes,
I have the list, or I have
the list and the grid, but they are the same. I have what we downloaded the last class.
I'm refreshing it. It still says the same things.
What?
Refresh it here.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah, I still have the same thing.
It's weird. Oh, are you on the global environment?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you want to share a screen so I can see what you're doing? Yeah. Anyone else is having problems so far?
took me a second to figure out how to get the right data loaded with the first 11 lines. It looks like he's repeating himself to like make a point, but you have to ignore that.
Yeah, so here he's saying different things about always take a look on what is on the I tend to ignore it just because I've incorporated so much the R language that when I see a hashtag, I don't even, it's very invisible for me because it is invisible to the code. But basically the first line, he tells how to change the directory. But of course, as we went through last week, this depends on your computer. It completely depends on your computer, because if you do not have any con 517 folder, this is not going to run for you, which would be the case for me. It didn't find. And then he goes making the point that on Windows, the bars are going to be different than Mac. And then actually this one, I did this one because this is mine. So this was not on his original code. So this is just me creating for myself. But yeah, so can you share, Angie, or do I need to let you share some way?
Yeah, you need to let me share. Like if you click my image in the upper right part, there are like 3 little points, and then you like co-host.
I want to stop my wait.
And those of us that are not speaking, turn off our microphones so there's no feedback. Thank you.
Sorry, go again.
For those that are not speaking, can we turn off our microphone or mute it, unmute it so that it doesn't get feedback?
Yeah, I think most people are muted. Maybe Adam, I don't think you are muted. I'm gonna mute you. Okay. Please unmute yourself if you meant to say something. Sorry. So share. No. Can you? Oh my God. How do I cancel share? I'm gonna have to do it again and stop my share. So if you try to share now, you still can't?
No, I can't. But if you see my image and you click in the upper right part, you will see like a blue square that has 3 spots. Okay, now I can do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I need to do is actually in general make it something that everyone can share. So I don't need to keep making people co-host. Okay.
We have, and when I run these, for example, nothing shows up here.
Can you go to, oh damn, wait, let me just fit to window. I'm not even seeing the whole thing. Well, oh my God, how do I see it?
Hit Control Enter 4 more times.
What?
Hit Control and Enter at the same time 4 times.
Control Enter?
Yeah, and do it four times.
I'm not sure which is, okay.
Oh, okay, I see what's happening. No, just, so go on the bottom there.
Mm-hmm.
And put a parenthesis, a close parenthesis.
Like that?
Well, try that. Okay, now go back up and do it again. So basically you were, there was something that you ran that you probably ran without closing the parenthesis.
Okay.
So it was like doing a huge, now it's gonna work, you see? And now just run Y. You see the Y is now in your global environment. So now just go on the bottom and put Y. Yeah. Type Y on the.
Is that what you mean?
Wait, I can't see the.
But you're right, now it's showing in the upper right part.
Yeah, it's very, what is hard for me is like the bottom of it, there's the bar from, I'm trying to move this stupid bar from Zoom, otherwise I can't see.
Okay, I can put enter. Can you see now?
Yeah, so, okay, so what happened there was, so for example, let me go back to myself here and I'll explain what happened.
Okay, so I stop sharing now?
Yeah, you can stop sharing now and I'll share again. It's a good thing to know. So this happens quite frequently. So we're back here. So for example, when I'm trying to, so the first thing is, if you want to run this line here, you do not need to actually do this. I do that a lot. But if I just run when I'm at that line, so if I do Command Enter at that line itself, it already runs. Okay, so let's say that I do, and that I go ahead and I illuminate and I miss the end of the parentheses. So this is saying, so what I'm basically doing here is that I haven't finished yet running my function. And if I keep going here, it's just, I mean, eventually it's going to give me an error. So I can still close my parentheses and then it's going to do the same thing. Okay, so it's basically saying the command that you just sent me has not been closed yet. And it might be going on forever. So whenever you see that there is a plus coming up and you've been doing a bunch of stuff, just close parentheses until it ends. And then it's going to probably give you an error as it gave to Angie, because at that point you already had put things that made no sense there. And then you go on and run again, whatever you want to run. Okay. So now we have this object, which is an x, which is the square root of the square root of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, not the square root, the square. Then you can get the mean of that, and this is basically giving you the average of all of those values, the same way that the mean of one number is going to be the mean, it's going to be its own value. Okay, so mean is just an average function, which is pre-created. We already did a little bit of including libraries, what it means. So when I say library deeply, this means that I'm attaching to my library that package that I already installed. So if you get an error when you do that, this means that you first need to go in, sorry. But don't do it if you don't get an error, because otherwise it's gonna just update it. Install packages, and in install packages, you need to put the quotes and then do that. But also, if you do not have that package and you opened a file that is using library, a package that you do not have installed, it's gonna usually prompt a yellow bar on top, and it's gonna ask you to install the packages. So throughout the semester, whenever you open a code that someone sends you and you need to run that code, just go ahead and just install the packages using the yellow bar that prompts up. But if for some reason you try to run library something and it doesn't work, just go install packages. And now but I do not want to restart R.
I have a
Now
question.
it's again, as you can see, and then I can run. What? Yes.
So I installed that package, and then I run the package, and it says attaching package DPLRYR. The following objects are masked from package stats, filter log. What does that mean?
So this means that you have now loaded 2 packages that have functions that are the same. And those are the ones that it's telling you. So that's what the masked means. So it means that there's going to be some ambiguity. Just so so it's a warning. It's not really an error. It still loads it.
I got the same thing.
Yeah, that's very common. That's also why it's good to every now and then restart your section, your R section, because basically what that's gonna do, if you quit your R session, it's gonna take out of the library the things that are there. That's also why there is 2 things. There is install package and then there is library. So a package that is installed, it's saved there, but it's not active. So if I try to run a function that it belongs to a package that I have installed, but I haven't called library on it, it's not gonna find the function. So instead of having a bunch of packages kind of active through library at the same time, it's worth, when you're gonna run something different, just quit your R session and start over. So this is gonna minimize this type of problem. And in general, it's good to try to minimize that within one code. That happens sometimes. Sometimes you do need 2 different packages for 2 different functions within the same code, and they are going to have functions in common, and that's okay. But you want to try to minimize that problem.
How do you know if the
Sorry.
How do you know if the functions are in common, even though it says it's masked? But like, for instance, if you type in the mask function, but then in both package, the functions are, I guess, set differently. Is there such thing?
Yes, they can be slightly different. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's gonna run the second one you put library. I don't remember. I've had that problem before, but it's very rare for me. So I'm not really sure which one it's gonna call if you try to run a function. And sometimes it's not only a problem of doing different things, sometimes it's even the syntax of it in terms of what arguments it takes or how many arguments you need to give are going to be different. I'm not sure if you do, I mean, because I don't have anything masked right now, but if you use the help and for one of those two functions that are masked that you have right now, what would come up? That might be prompt up both of them here and give you the two options on the right side, and then you need to click on which one you want to go to. Give you both results.
Hi, Luiza.
Yes.
I think I have an issue here. I tried to install the packages.
Mm-hmm.
I think it did, but when I clicked on library, it gave me an error message.
What does it say?
Okay. The following objects are masked from packages. That's filter lag or something.
Mute myself. Oh, okay. No, I don't.
Can I share my screen?
So this is the exact same thing that Jason was just talking about. A few people have that. That's not an error. That's a warning. It's just telling you that you have multiple packages that are on your library right now that have similar functions, but that's not a problem. You still are going to be able to use.
So I tried to load the data set, but it's an error.
But the data set, the low data set is going to be a different problem. It probably doesn't know. You probably didn't set up the working directory to the same place where the data set is. What error do you get from the low data set? Does it say not found?
Okay. Some part of my laptop is actually in Korean, but here it is saying like the error in read chat or something.
You mean when you do the load?
Yes.
So try doing this. Go here on the right, on this button on load workspace, and then just select the object, the ASEC or DA, and then it's gonna load for you. And then I can troubleshoot that part with you a little later. Does that work for you?
All right, thank you.
I have another question.
Yes.
So when I did the help parentheses, like the mass functions, they show me like, I guess in the what package they're coming from, and but then the title of the, I guess the operation is different. So does that signal that they are possibly different functions?
They are different. They are definitely different functions.
Okay.
But you won't have any problem with it unless you actually need to use one of those functions.
Got it.
That's why I'm saying if for any reason the packages, so I don't know which are the packages that are in contradiction with each other here right now, but if you do not need the other one, if you had quit your session before starting this, then you would not be having this problem. I'm guessing it's something that I actually used last week because multiple people are having this problem actually. But it's not, again, there is a difference between a warning message and an error. A warning message is just letting you know that if something goes wrong later, this might be the reason. So it's kind of really a warning, or telling you that there was some ambiguity on something that you gave it. So there is also that warning message that you might have warning messages regarding not giving a function enough arguments. And then it's going to give you a warning message letting you know that R automatically chose an argument for you, a standard argument, because you didn't input it. So when you write a function, I'm not going to remember completely the the syntax right now, but on writing a function here, you could add a line here telling it to give a warning message to the user. So this is something that is within the function. So it would go something like, if this happens in the computer, gives this warning message. But it still runs through the function. So a warning message is something that is prompted because of some value in your computer, but it's still, but it doesn't stop the function from going from the first line to the last line and actually returning whatever it's supposed to return. Okay, so everyone is able to run this line, summary AZAC.
Yes.
Anyone is not able? Okay. I have a feeling that someone probably is not, because if you do not have the data there, so everyone has the data AZAC here, right? Adama, were you able to load the data finally?
Lucia, I have a question.
Yes.
Why do we use this DPLYR? In what cases do we have to use that?
I think it's the, I don't know if it's the table or the attach. I think it's the table function. No, is it? Oh my God. No, that's in base. Levels, might be levels. There is some, so. Base, maybe it's attach. Did I do that already? Base. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is whenever I ask for help for a specific function, which I'm doing right now. So this means give me help on the function levels. And then it prompts here the help. And then at the very top here, this is telling you to which package this belongs. So levels belongs to base. So this means that I would never need to install or load any packages or do library any packages to be able to use the function levels. So you just asked me why we are using the package deeply. I don't remember right now, but one of the functions that are going to be used next belongs to that package. So besides creating your own functions, there are certain people that already created functions that are common overall in the world, and therefore they attached it to a package and they make that package available for people to load into their R. And when you do that, then those functions also become part of the functions that you can call upon without having to actually code that function or write a program for that function. Maybe it's this one. I'm not 100% sure which one. We might find out if someone actually had problem loading the package, because then they are going to have an error at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so when you do summary AZAC here, you're going to have certain, so first of all, so this here, and when I click on the object, it's going to open up, does the same as view the object, and it's going to open up the data set. So AZAC is a data set, which has 73,000 observations, and it has 13 variables. The names of the variables are here on the top, as you can see. And when I do summary, it actually gives me a summary of each single variable. So it gives me the minimum value, the maximum value, the medium, the first and third quartile, and the mean. Okay, so this is kind of describing a little bit the data for you. Okay. when I do had AZAC, this is going to give me the very first values. And this is, I know that when you click on it, you can see the whole thing, but looking at the bottom of it sometimes takes time to actually go all the way to the bottom. And if this is a huge data set, and sometimes you will have huge data sets loaded here, when you click on it, this is going to take forever to actually open. Sometimes it's super annoying when you have big data sets because you're going to mistakenly click on it, and then it's just like your R then starts taking a while to respond. And so sometimes it's useful for you to be able to see the first values or the last values of a data set, and that's what the function had, which maybe is the one. No, that's on utils, but that's also part of, you don't need to call upon the utils, is like the base as well. Anyways, the function had gives you the 6 first values of it, unless you say, I think it goes like that. Let me try. So you can actually say had 25 if you want to see the first 25. For example. And it's not only showing you, another thing that you could do is AZAC 25. And if I create an object called AZAC 25, had AZAC 25, now I have a second object here, which has the same 13 variables, but just the first 25 observations, for example. So when I click here, now you see I only have 25. And the tail does the opposite. The tail gives you the last 6 values. And again, you could do tail, comma, 10, and that's going to give you the 10 last values. So this is an example of a function, the function tail and the function had, which could have 2 arguments, but it still understands if you only give it 1 argument. Okay, so now when I say AZAC and I put a $bar here, this is going to prompt a list here, which gives you all of the variables. So if instead of just calling the object AZAC as a whole, you want to call one specific variable on AZAC, the way you would do that is AZAC $, and then, for example, ID. So this is just giving me the very first variable on it. Let me just call it AZAC so you can see. So when I do this, I actually created an object that it's going to be here, which is a large numeric with all of the elements. I haven't gone through yet much of type and class of objects. So as you can see, this actually has a different, because it was only one vector, it created with a different type of object than the one before. But when I say AZAC $race, what this is telling you is that it wants to look just on that one vector, which is the variable race of the object AZAC. And table is a function that gives you the total values of total count of the different values of those. So actually, why do it first do? Yeah. So this is telling you, this is creating a table for you with the head count of each race and each sex. And here we don't know yet. One is probably male, 2 female, and then it's going to be white. We're going to get there yet because this is not that easy to read yet. You actually would need to go into your documentation of your data to know what is what. So basically the variable sex and the variable race, they're qualitative variables that tell you for different values what they are. So sex is created as a 1 or 2 value. And if it's 1, it means that that observation is a male. If it's 2, that observation is a female. And when I do table, this is already creating a table for me, letting me know the distribution of those 4 values of race and those 2 values of sex, how they are done, okay? The attach here, it's gonna make this, so if you are gonna be using just one data set, so I'm gonna be doing a bunch of things just with AZAC, and I do not wanna have to do AZAC $race every single time because it's really very much to be typing. So if you attach AZAC, what this is, oh, well, I need to clean this now. It's still gonna work. I'm assuming that it has to do with having the 2 objects, but maybe not. So again, I got a mask here. I don't know if anyone else is getting a mask. But when I attach AZAC here, what this does now is that when I say race, it already knows that it's race from AZAC. When I do sex, it already knows that it's sex from AZAC, so that I get exact same values on this table and on this table. Okay.
Can you repeat that again, please?
Sorry?
Can you repeat that last step again, please?
So when I attach AZAC, this is telling me that, so it's actually, it's giving me a shortcut to call on the variables that belong to AZAC. So I do not, so it already knows that race, all of the variables that exist on AZAC are now also part of your environment, and you can call upon them without needing to do this. So let me just do one thing here. Let me detach AZAC for a second here so you can see. So if I do race, now it's gonna say what, oh, it is already attached. Ah, sorry, I'm gonna do this. 1 second, otherwise I'm not gonna. What's going on? This also cleans your environment. So you don't need to do that now. So I'm gonna reload this. And now when I do race, oh, it still does. Why the heck is this happening?
Are you trying to do like the 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, the numbers?
No, I want to show you that it doesn't actually do it. But for some reason, the factor is still there.
Mine only show numbers. It doesn't even show male, female, or white color. I don't understand.
But you attached it, right?
It's the attachment says the following objects are masked from ASEC POS equal 3. And then it has a whole list of.
I have the same.
Anyways, for some reason, because later on here, we're gonna create the factors to it. But for some reason, mine is already. Let me see if it's still gonna do now. Load. Yep, I don't know. I will need to quit my thing and start again. I'm not gonna do that now.
How did you get it to show white, black, other?
Yeah, so this is gonna happen here when I create a factor. What I'm not 100% sure right now is why I'm not being able to delete that factor from mine, even though I removed the list. It's because I ran it earlier.
I'm sorry, Luisa.
I'm gonna quit the session quickly. I'm not saving this. Yes, you have a question, Angie?
Yeah, Couldn't, I'm sorry that my question created all these problems, but I just didn't understand what attach a sec would mean. You said that you can just put table without putting the signs, like the money signs anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I try to show you one thing. So let me load exact. Okay, so now I'm back where we were. Let's see if now it does it. So that's what I was trying to show you. So if I go on race now, after you attach, when you go on race, it knows it's 1 and 2s, and it's going to actually return you the values from AZAC race, which is here. Okay, so it's going to just return you that vector. Right now, because I haven't attached it yet, it doesn't know this object. There is no object called race. So when I attach, it actually creates objects. It doesn't show on the global environment, but it creates objects with the names of all of those variables that you can call upon automatically. So now when I attach and I do race, it's actually going to give me the numbers as everyone is receiving, and not yet white, black, Latinx, and so on. So when I do table sex now, it actually returns a value because it understands what sex is. Before it would have told me the same thing as I have here, object sex not found. So that's what attach is doing.
Thank you, Luiza.
So now I'm creating a label. So this syntax here, C, just says I can't, because the parenthesis is a syntax for functions, right? So when I want to create a vector with values, so let's say I want to just create a vector that has the values 1, 2, 3. I actually need to do C, which is a column. C stands for column. So now I'm creating a column that has 2 values, male and female. When I put the quotes, this means that I'm creating, this have text values, okay? If I did male and female, this would be creating what it would mean if I didn't have the quotes here, is that I wanted to create a column with the object male and object female. And of course, it would give you an error because those objects do not exist. Okay, so right now I'm creating just a label, which is male and female, and then I'm going to assign that label. And the way you do that is creating a factor. So a factor is very similar to a label in Stata for those that use Stata. And it's extremely helpful for doing those tables, for doing plots. So if you want to do plot and you want to actually cut your data by a certain label, or do bar plots and things like that, and you want to have a legend that actually already tells you male and female and so on, you would use factors for that. So factor kind of gives a label to things. And really, this could have been written as this as well. Let me show you. So the syntax of this line and of this line are exactly the same thing. So here I'm assigning to AZAC sex values 1 and 2, the label male and female. It's just that you can do that in 2 steps. You already create a label, which is male and female, and you assign those to 1 and 2. So if I do that, or if I do that, it's exactly the same thing. So now sex, actually, no, because I attached before. So, oh, it's definitely not going to work because I assigned to 1, 2, and there is no 1, 2 anymore. I'm going to have to. So now when I do AZ sex, it gives me male, female, and so on. Okay. I had an error before of a bunch of NAs because what I did was I assigned to AZ sex the label male and female, and then I tried to assign again to 1 and 2, which was not there anymore, and then it didn't work.
I don't get it. How did you get the male and female to show? Because mine still says NA.
Did you run something before? No.
I ran that a whole line ASEC $sex arrow dash factor ASEC C12. I ran that line and then I print ASEC $sex, and it gave me NA.
It gave you NA. Can you go back and load again ASEC, reload ASEC, and try again doing just these 2 lines?
Can you explain the difference again between loading and attaching?
So when I load the data, well, the first thing is when I load this data, I have this data is coming as one object, which is the object ASEC. And this object ASEC, when I click here, you can see it has 13 variables, the variable ID, HH Inc., transfer Inc., and so on. When I attach ASEC, it actually makes the object, it attaches to the global environment, although it doesn't show on the data, objects with the name of those variables. So before I attach, the only way of calling upon ASEC ID would be to do ASEC $ID. Once you attach, it already understands that ID is the one from ASEC, is the one you attach.
So you can only have one data set attached at a time?
No, you can have multiple, but if those multiple data sets have variables called with the same name, you're going to have a problem. I don't even think you...
Gotcha.
You might get the mask thing, or you might actually get an error. I'm not 100% sure now. Because then you wouldn't know what is what. Jason, were you able? He's gone.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I could have seen you're not there. That's fine. Adam, I want to check on you. How is it going there? Did you get the data loaded?
No. But it's okay. I want to follow, then I'll do it later.
So, okay, what I'm gonna do is let me, because it's already 11 now, and I really want to move to Fernando's code now. So let me just quickly go through these lines and explain what it's supposed to be doing, so you know, and you can go through it after. Then we take a 10-minute break where I can troubleshoot Adama meanwhile, and then we move into Fernando.
All right, thank you.
So where was I? I was on. Okay, so now that I've created the label male and female, when I print, oh, sorry. So there is my labels. When I print, I'm gonna get male, female, at least you should. When I ask levels, it's gonna tell you what are the levels that exist on sex. It's just male and female. So levels basically prints what are the factors assigned to this data set. And then when I do a table now, the same as before, but actually I know what is male and what is female. And then after that, it does the exact same thing for race. But which is very interesting is that it doesn't really work with the attach, the labels. But if you do, just so you see, the labels were not attached. But now when I do the table with ASEC race and ASEC sex, it gives you everything. So then he detaches it, creates a subset just with the race white, which is, so WASEC is gonna be ASEC, but just when race is equal white. So it creates a data frame, a separate data frame that has much less information, as you can see. So when I do a table, race and sex, oh my God, attach AZAC. Did I detach AZAC first? No, attach WASAC. So now when I do the table race and sex, it's gonna only have values for white because this is a subset where you only have whites. But it still understands race. Oh, damn, no. The label race, at least, as a factor of all of those. So now what he does, the case when here, could not find function case when. I think this is the answer to the previous question of why are you doing Dippler? It's probably, oh my God, no, there's so many things being masked. So you see how when I first tried to run this line, the case when, I got an error saying that could not find function case when. So this is the reason why we are using the package dplyr. It's because of this function here. It exists on that package. So if I did, it's gonna tell you that it is on that package. So this line here is doing, it's creating a data called race sex, which just has, so this is already creating specific values and doing the intersection. So he's doing here the intersection between race and sex, and creating a vector which assigns the values 1 for when race is white and sex is male, value 2 when race is white and sex is female. So then at the end of this, what I have is number of white males, number of white females, and it's extremely hard to read. But if again I create a factor and give labels to it, then I can actually see what he did. Okay.
I've got a question.
Yes.
This is Tom. When I did create the labels for the race, and then created the table with sex and race, I got the labels to come up. So it's like says race on the vertical axis and then sex on the horizontal axis. But it's zero entries for everything.
Well, so something happened that either it didn't assign correctly the labels. I mean, I don't know if you've been running things like me, so I've been doing things randomly here, which makes it very hard to know and debug. But supposedly, if you go back and load again and run again just those lines that were on the original code, sex label, AZAC sex, and do also the label for race, it should work.
This is Jason. I think the problem is because we have other data sets that are open, and I have gotten like not warning message where it's masked on the same variables for 2 different data sets that's similar. And so I also got like 0 across the line. I think it's just we're having too many data sets loaded with similar variables that are giving us 0, because that's what I feel, because I'm getting a lot of that warning where.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've been running things randomly, so I'm retaching, detaching, and then loading other things, and then creating other variables, and doing the same thing with different ways of doing, and then it's just kind of this is one of the main reasons why it's very good to actually have the code written here and not just go coding here, because it's extremely hard to debug if you can't actually go back and see what you did. So I will need to actually look into your console lines to understand what exactly was the problem that happened. But as Jason is saying, most likely what happened is just that you have ambiguously given values to different objects, and now somehow it's calling upon a wrong object or something, or yeah. But we can troubleshoot later if still running the original code, you wouldn't get the correct results for some reason, but it's unlikely, I think. Okay, so we're actually done with this one because the end here is just the writing CSV and reading, and we did a lot of that last week. As I mentioned, and for next week, this would be very important because otherwise it goes a bit more slowly, and I feel bad about leaving people behind, and I really do not want to leave people behind. So it is important that once I send you the code, you run the code. And if you do have errors, you need to be able to run the code without any error messages from the very first line to the last line when I send you a code. And if you have error messages, I need you to troubleshoot with me within the week. I know there was no actual time set for the office hours this week, and I apologize for that. It was because of Labor Day, and then Tuesday we had the strike. But next week on Monday, we're gonna have our regular office hours, and I'm gonna send an email about that today and already send you the link to the Zoom meeting. And if you can during the weekend, just try to run the code, and if you have error, let me know so we can meet on Monday. And if you can't meet on Monday, set up another time. That would be helpful so we can go a little faster in general here. Okay, so let's do a 10-minute break and before we go to the chapter 2 code. But if anyone wants to try to troubleshoot something, and I would give preference to Adama, who's a bit behind just because there is problem loading the data. But if you also have any other problem and you want to stay, feel free.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes.
So like these codings that we're doing, like these aren't part of any assignments, right? Like it's just like for us to learn extra materials.
So this one is from Tom. I'm not really sure what he's gonna use. This is more a question for him, what he's gonna use this for. But I'm assuming I'm not sure if he has assignments, which you use R.
Yeah, because when I go on Moodle, I don't see any form of like work pertaining to these codings.
Yeah, but this is things that are gonna be very likely needed for you for whatever is the project that you're doing.
Okay, so that was my question. So these are just like features for us to learn, but like these things aren't specifically.
This one, yes. The second, so what I'm gonna do next after the break? No, that's actually exercises from Woodridge. The very first one, yes, it's mostly general. The chapter 2, what we're gonna be doing, but those are functions that are gonna be using over and over and over for your assignments at Fernando's class.
Right. Okay. So we're just learning the functions we need to do the assignment. But
today, yes. Next week, I'm actually going to do the very first exercise of your assignment, the one that needs R.
Right.
Together
Okay.
with you.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Just clarifying that. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, Adama, can you tell me how it's going there?
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please do. 1 second. Let me make you a co-host and let me stop sharing mine. Go ahead.
Okay.
If anyone wants to use this time to like run to the restroom or get coffee or anything, please feel free as well.
Okay, I have another question. I'm sorry.
Let me just troubleshoot her first, and then I'll go back to you.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Can you see my
Yes, I can.
Okay. So.
Oh, wow.
So this is your visual. Okay, because my computer, most of these functions are in Korean. I cannot try to change everything into English, but I still have some in Korean, but it's okay. I think it's just some interpretation.
They're having a problem loading the data set. That's clear. It's probably because Erin reads by true. No such file or directory. You see that? So it's not finding the data.
Yeah.
So if you go on the top, on the right, there are 4 windows, right? The right top window, the environment one, right
Yes.
under the opening, the folder one. Go there. No, the left one, the the open folder one.
This
that
one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just get AZAC there. Find AZAC. Whatever you saved AZAC. Oh, it's over there. It's the 3rd one. No, not that one. Go again. Downloads AZAC RDA. It's the 3rd file. No, on top. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Open. Okay. So what was happening is, so you see now it says load C users CADAM 000 downloads AZAC.
Yeah.
So now right on the bottom there, right, get WD, open parenthesis, close parenthesis.
Like
GET WD. WD. Yeah, and then open parenthesis and close parenthesis. Yes, enter. So that's the problem. So when you say load AZAC, what it does is that it tries to load a file called azac.rda in the folder documents. But AZAC is not in the folder documents. That's why it says no such file or directory.
I see.
So first you need to set WD. That's what we did last time. Set WD to the folder where you are going to be, in general, in this class, saving things. So if it's just going to be always in download, you're going to set to download. But what I suggest is that you create a folder somewhere, might be on documents, which is called our workshop or whatever you want to do, and then set the WD to that. So from then on, you can just load. For Fernando's class, it's going to be less of a problem because most of the data set is going to be using, it's nothing you need to download. It's actually attached to the package Woodridge that we're going to be using.
Okay.
But in general, whenever you need to load a data or read a CSV and things like that, that data, you need to tell R where to look for the data when you're writing the code. Or you need to set the WD to where that data is going to be first.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I had another question. So.
Can I ask one?
Yes, but I think there was someone else for a question, but go ahead.
Yeah, like why were we attaching and this detaching this AZAC and WAZAC?
Yes, the detach and attach. No. Do you want to share the screen now?
Like I was asking, why were we like detaching this AZAC to attach WAZAC?
Because there are similar names to the, so if you just try to attach one on top of the other, because they have the same variables, you wouldn't know what is what. I think it was just right up, but I'm not even 100% sure. I can test. So basically AZAC and YZAC have the exact same variables. If you attach both of them, you wouldn't know. The following objects are masked from AZAC, both equal 4. The following objects are masked from YZAC. Yeah, so you have this problem because the variables are the exact same ones.
Yeah, I had the like same problem, and again I like reran the code, and then it was okay. Like I closed that previous file, and yeah, I think some of the data were overlapping. That's why.
Yeah, they actually all overlap, right? Because we created WASAC as a subset from AZAC. So it has some values that are different, but the variables itself, so have different observations, is a subset, it's part of AZAC. WASAC is just part of the observations from AZAC, specifically those observations where race value was equal to 1. But the variables itself, the name of them is exactly the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll run to the restroom and be quickly back, and then we start with chapter 2. So please do, let me share my screen. My R, where's my R? Here. So now if you want to go to the file chapter 2 in R and have that opened. That's Fernando's first quote. Okay, so I am actually, no, I think it's fine. So I'll start by, this is going to be part of here. Okay, so this is the very first code that Fernando gave you. And it's called chapter 2 because it's regarding chapter 2 of Woodridge. And the first thing is when you open it, it probably prompts you the install package thing, ask you to install Woodridge unless you already have it installed, because again, we have a library Woodridge here. And if you try to run library Woodridge and it does not, it doesn't work, then you probably need to install package Woodridge, which is, so he did 2 different lines here, have install packages Woodridge, which is that one. I'm not gonna do it, cancel. And you also have the install package Woodridge with a second argument to the function install package, which is dependencies equal true. So this, if you run this one, it's not only gonna be installing the package Woodridge, it's also gonna be installing packages that that by the package Woodridge were being told as being dependent upon. So there are certain functions that the package Woodridge itself is going to use that they did not code within itself, that actually depends on you having on your own computer other packages downloaded as well. So when your R is very new, this might be something worth doing. Dependency is true, because it's going to end up installing many packages that are important eventually. So first, this line here, RM stands for remove, LS stands for list of objects. So if I just do LS here, it's going to tell me all of the objects that I have in my environment right now. If I do list LS, it's going to, oh, it actually created a list. But this is telling me to remove all of the objects that exist in my environment right now. So this is the same as just clicking here. So it's like the clear all in Stata. So we already did the library Wooldridge, and here he's doing something different, which is detaching the package Wooldridge. And that's gonna also help with getting the different data sets that exist in Wooldridge easily called upon.
So are we installing and detaching Wooldridge?
If you want to drop a library from memory. Oh, actually, no, sorry. The detach, not attach. The detach Wooldridge, what it's doing here is uninstalling. It's taking it out of the library. It's the opposite, sorry. So the detach package Wooldridge is exactly the opposite as library Wooldridge. So if I detach here, if I try to run a function from Wooldridge, it's not going to be on the library. So this is just to show you how to get something out of your library. So when I tried to detach it again, it gave me an error because it doesn't even exist there anymore. Thank you, Jason, sorry. So we're gonna be attaching again, so doing library again, and library prettyr. And so let me just, don't do this, but just let me show you something. So if I go here and do $LM, oh, it didn't work. Oh, it's on the prettyr. Oh, it's in stats. Well, if I do here LM, it's gonna tell you what. Oh, it's also doing it. Well, if I do help LM or if I do interrogation mark LM, it's gonna be the same thing, and it's gonna tell you what the LM function does. And really seriously, the LM function, from as far as I've understood from Fernanda's class, this is the very most single important function you're going to use in his whole class for a while. At least we're going to have different models eventually, but the LM function fits a linear model. That's what it does, and creates an object for that linear model. So I'm going to jump this help parts here. So this is really just telling you how to get help in general, which we already went through a little bit. So we can always do the help for a package would be library help Wooldridge, and that actually opens up a documentation for it. Help search is actually going to search on our all, but this one thing that's very interesting about this, the results you're going to get on your search are different from mine, because this has to do with what you already have uploaded or not, what you have already done, what libraries are, not libraries, but what packages you have installed before already. So you might get less results than I'm getting here, you might get more, but they might be different. So the help search is actually similar to this. I don't know, it's not. Or is it? It might be. Yeah, so the help search is similar to the double question mark. And the double question mark is different from the single question mark, because the single question mark is looking to what already is in your library. So whenever you do a single question mark and you do not get any answer, it gives you no results found. The next thing to do is exactly to do the double question mark, because it's going to tell you different packages that might have that specific function that you're looking for. So here, when you do the double question mark with the quote marks, it's looking for the expression phrase. If you do a single, if you do LM, it actually is gonna look for the function LM. So it's gonna look for that as if, well, the single one is already gonna give you the LM. If it wasn't attached to the library, it would tell you that you can find LM in the package stats. So you would know that you need to upload, to install and do library stats. Okay, and also the example, and you might not get it because it depends if you have the describe there, but the example here, it's giving you for the function describe, which is, let me see. So for the function describe, which is part of PrettyR, so the only reason why we have that is because we just did the library PrettyR. So if you had any problem running the line PrettyR, when you do example describe, you're not gonna get the same results as me. You might get no results or an error. But the example describe, it actually puts here the example that you have on the help of describe, which is this part here. So it gives you some examples of how the function describe works. So besides, so the functions, besides giving you help and explaining what are their arguments and so on, at the very end of it, it gives you examples. So as I was mentioning before, Wooldridge is a package that has within itself a bunch of data sets. And you can also do, so Crime1 is a data from Wooldridge package. And it actually, if you want to know more about that data, you can also use the help, and it's going to tell you what the format of the data, how many observation it has, the variables, and a little description of the variables. Because when you just go on Crime1 here, or you attach Crime1 there, you are not going to know what the heck is Inc. 86SQ. So you can go on the help of it, and this is going to be legal income 1988 in hundreds of dollars to the power of 2. That's what Inc. 86SQ means. So for you to be able to actually tell, which you would not by just looking to the names of the variables, you would need to look into that. And if you use the R site search, if I actually run this line here, you're not going to see, this is going to open up your browser and search on the site of R and open that window. So if I do that, you're not going to see, because actually it's going to pause my share screen because it's a different screen, of course, my Chrome. I'm not sharing my whole computer screen right now. Okay, so we've learned how to remove things from the environment with a code line here. But we also know that we can just use this little broom here. We already did the library Wooldridge, but anyways. And now he's attaching a specific data set, which we looked into last week, actually. That's the same data set that last week we uploaded in very many different formats, or from different formats. So what I did before last week is that I created an object with this data set. And actually, let me do that so you can also see it there. So I'm going to create an object like that so it shows up there. So you can look into this object. It has 12 variables. Don't do that part because that's going to create a mess again with the attach and so on. And it has all of those variables. And actually, because you already called upon library Wooldridge, this object is already on your memory here and part of the environment, although we don't see. So even before I created this object or attached that, I was always able, just because I had the library Wooldridge, to do what we had done before, which is something like COSAL1, and then using the $sign call upon specific variables of that. But when I attach it, I actually am able to do that more easily, as we already did. And now I'm getting the stupid mask thing. That's because I created that object, I think. Anyways, that's going to be happening from now on with mine. So if I go on names of COSAL, it's going to tell me what are the variables. So this gives me the names of all of the columns. If I do describe, this is going to give me certain statistics from it. So this is different than the summary that we had before done, but not that different. So the summary, as you remember, let me do a summary. So the summary gives me the quantiles, the minimum, maximum, and mean, and the median value. And the describe gives me mean, median, variance, standard deviation, and the number of observations of the data set. So it's slightly different, but they're very similar in the sense that they're giving you basic statistics or descriptive statistics of that data set.
Quick question.
Yes.
When it says valid number or valid.n, does that mean it will omit corrupted entries? That number?
I think it's gonna omit NA values.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't do that, but let's just see. It's gonna be many. Okay, I created now a test one, and I've added NAs to the end of it, except for one of them. So let me test this. Why did you do that? This is looking so pretty. Why is the other one looking so ugly? I do not know what's going on here. So, okay, wait. This might work, but it might not work. No. So actually, when I created this new object, it created a list, so it's making a mess. So that's, but supposedly, yes, that's what it's doing. When you do the describe and it gives you the valid number, it's actually just going to give you the observations that have valid entries.
Okay.
So now you just saw me trying to do something and not working. Basically because I created a new object to try to do a test here, and this object does not have the same format as the other one. So if I go on class This is a data frame. The other one is also data frame. I'm not sure what to tell you. It's also a data frame, so I don't know what's going on actually. It's not doing the same. Anyways, let's keep going. I'm not gonna lose time on things that I didn't prepare. So we describe, did I delete something important? No. So when I do describe that, and I only take, so I haven't actually explained this way of looking to things before. So I've told you that CS1 $ salary is the salary, but also 1, comma, C salary, and also, so let me, so CO cell 1 $ salary calls upon the variable salary of the data set CO cell L1. When I say CO cell 1 C salary is asking me to find the column that's called salary on that. So it's actually the same thing with a different syntax, but it gives me a column of it, as you can see, but it's the same values. Finally, this syntax here is telling me to give me the first column and all rows of CO cell 1, which is, of course, again, salary. So when I do describe CO cell 1 and I ask for those columns, it's just going to describe the two variables that I asked for, salary and row, whatever row is. And row is return on equity. Okay. I can also ask it for describe for me a subset of, did I already do that? Yeah. Describe a subset of something that is there. And remember, because we attached CO cell 1, I can call upon a specific variable on itself. So actually this should also give me the same value. So after attaching all of these objects here are exactly the same values. These are different ways of calling the exact same thing. Everyone understands that? Okay, so I don't know if no one is understanding me anymore, or if everyone is understanding and it's just quiet.
Yes.
So when I do describe subset, this says that, so I could first create an object, which is a subset, and then describe that object. Or if I do not want to attach another object to my global environment, I can just ask it to describe a subset. So this is telling me to describe a subset of wage 1. Wage 1 is actually a different, it's not the CO, sorry. So wage 1 is not a variable on COSL1. Wage 1 is actually a different data set that is within the package of Woodridge. So it's saying subset, and the argument of the function subset is the data set. This is the columns from the data set that I want to look upon. So the variables. So it's saying make a subset of in the data set wage 1 of the variables wage, education, expert, which I'm not experienced probably, and tenure, and create a data set where you only have the females of it, and then describe that for me. That's what this is doing. So this is giving me the mean wage of females in the data set wage, the mean education, the mean experience, and the mean tenure. Okay, and wage one actually had many more variables than that. So I created just a data set, a subset with parts of it. And I've restricted the number of observations. So now I have valid 252. If I did just describe, let me describe wage one second here. So when I describe wage one here, actually we have 526. So the 252 here is just the ones that are female. Okay, and you can also see that the mean wage of the complete data set wage one is higher than that of the cut with female. That's because males get a higher wage than women in average. So you can already start seeing. So when you describe subsets of your data, you can start seeing already certain patterns that are going to show up. So you see that the wages of everyone, the mean wage of the whole sample is higher than the mean wage of female. The mean education level is a little higher. The mean experience is higher. The mean tenure is higher. Okay. So now this is asking to look into just the first 6 observations of the variable black in the data set wage 2. And the first 6 observation is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. So this says that in the data set wage 2, the very first 5 observations are of non-Black people, and the 6th observation is a Black person. And now this is actually going to describe the wages of Blacks there. And the difference here, so now you see that we have a wage 735, and before we had a wage which was 5. Anyone want to guess what's happening here? Because in a very quick look, it almost seems as if, so now we're looking into a subset of a different data set. Before I had wage 1, now I have a different data set, wage 2. First, we look into a subset of wages of females, and now we're looking to a subset of wages of males. And it's absolutely uncomparable. We had that the order of value of the wage of females was 4.5, and now we have something of the order of 700. So anyone want to make guesses here?
Maybe they're completely different industries.
Is it different time, like one's weekly and one's hourly?
That's a good, yeah, they're both possible, but mainly the main thing here is it's very hard to tell unless we know how these data sets are done, right? So it might be the unit is different. It might be that these are actually subsets of different things. And the way I would try to figure that out is that I would look into the documentation. Oh, it's not wages, it's wage. Look into the documentation of it. So this is telling you that wage is the average hourly earnings. This is a data frame with 526 observations of 24 variables coming from the 1976 current population survey. Another option would be that one is about, I don't know, wages on the 1900s, and now we're talking about wages on the 2000s, for example. But mainly, they're definitely not comparable. And then let's go on wage 2 and see what wage 2 is. So wage 2 is efficiency wages, inter-industry wages, quarterly. It's extremely different data from 1980, but wage is monthly earnings, while before it had hourly earnings. So the unit of measure here is completely different. Okay, so when comparing data set is always, or even when describing these things, you know, and if you're reporting the description of those things, it's very important to know what that data set is actually describing and what are the variables that you're looking into, and adding that description to your exercises and so on. Or if you're doing a plot, you would need to not just say wages, you need to say monthly earnings or wages measured in monthly earnings. And you would probably need to also tell in which year this is being measured as. So is this current dollars? Is this fixed dollars of a certain year, and so on. Okay, we already know what head does, and we also know what summary does. But this is actually going to be doing a summary of wage one for the values where SMSA in wage one is equal to 1 and black is equal to 1, and just for the columns wage, educ, expert, and tenure. So this is actually a summary of a subset of wage one and only a part of the variables of wage one.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why did you set both SMSA and black to be equal to 1? Shouldn't you distinguish both variables?
What do you mean? Sorry, I don't think I understood the question.
So you set both variables equal to 1?
I've actually this which here is creating a subset of wage one where SMSA, which is, oh damn, this is the wage one. 1 second. One, if, oh, so this is if it leaves on a statistic, what is the SMSA? It's this is probably like a metropolitan area or something. So one if it lives on a specific type of area, and one if it's black. So I'm restricting my sample here to look into those into which SMSA is 1 and black is 1. So if I was doing actually subset here, the phrasing would be a little different. So if this was using subset instead of the function which, I would have black equal 1 and SMSA equal 1. So it would be written differently, which is what is done here, you see. Is your question why it is not like this, but it's with a comma? Or is your question, what is this doing?
Actually, my question was pretty, you answered it.
Okay.
Depending on the data, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so if I actually looked into what it does, like when I look into, let me do the head, wage one. Here is the head of wage one. So you look into SMSA, you see that there are values that are 1 and values that are 0, and saying black. Where is black? I don't see black. Oh, I already created a subset with that. No, how is this finding it? Oh, I guess, okay, so I'm very confused now because there are no blacks here. I actually don't know what this is doing. There's no wage one black. Okay, I do not know actually what this is doing because there is a non-white, but there is no black. I will need to ask Fernando this actually, what he did there. But so next, it creates a subset and it creates an object called CLOBs. And it does that object when, so which wage one is 1 and wage one non-white is 1. Let me do something here. There's a well. And then you can also do the exact same thing. So now, well, not the exact same thing. So this is actually telling which rows. Okay, so sorry. Okay. So what this does is that it tells you in which rows you have the value wage one SMS equals to 1, and in which rows you would have the value wage one black equals 1. Because there is no column black, they're not going to be added any rows because of this. So actually deleting this and leaving this here does exactly the same thing, because this is not, it's not attaching any rows to that. So when I run just the which wage one SMS equals 1, this gives me all of the rows in the data set wage 1 where SMSA gets the value 1. If I do wage equals 1 and wage non-white 1, then it actually is doing both at the same time. So this is going to give me just those rows when both SMSA is equal 1 and wage one non-white is equal 1. Which would be different. Let me do a 3 here. If I use this here, so this bar, this vertical bar is an OR logical value. So then it would give me all of the rows where both of these things happen at the same time. Okay.
Mine doesn't show the numbers. It just says this creates a new variable with only the observation that fulfill the condition given.
In here?
When I do the whole SELOBS, I run that. It doesn't show me the numbers.
It doesn't show the numbers, but if you just run CLOBs, will it show the numbers then?
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, so that's the difference. So this is actually creating an object CLOBs with that value. And what I'm doing here, not telling you what I'm doing, is I'm actually running that object. I'm looking into that object. So when I run this line, I also do not get anything.
And if we want to know how many observations we have with those conditions, we have to count them?
You can do length of CLOBs, for example. So this is telling you how many rows CLOBs has. There's also dimension, so dim, but I don't know if this would work here because it depends on the type of, no, that depends on the type or class of object that you have actually. So length is always the best one when you have just a column or a row, one vector. If you have a matrix, the dim would actually give you the two of them, unless it's a list. A list is a whole other thing that we're going to get to hopefully soon. Okay, so you see that the and the or are very different logical things. And Yeah, and so if I want, instead of, so this one, actually syllabs2 actually creates an object, not only telling me which rows it has, but actually creates an object with those rows. So then I'm doing a subset where both of those conditions are fulfilled, which is the same as I did there. And then you can see that it has the row 25, 26, 36, 37, which is exactly the same values that I had here before. Okay, this was not, this you probably don't have there. This was not on the original code that he sent. This is something I added just so you see the
I have a question.
The subset and the which.
Is it possible for us to run the whole, I guess, value, the line first of like what syllabs 2 is, and then hit syllabs? Because if I hit syllabs right away, it doesn't show me the variables. It says object syllabs 2 not found. But if I run the whole line first and then run syllabs 2, then it does so.
Yeah.
Is that normal?
Yes, exactly. So for example, let's say that I do A here. Object A not found. There is no object A. For me to have an object A, I need to first create the object A. So now let's say that A is equal to 2. Now I'm assigning the value 2 to A. So I run that line A2. Now when I run A, it's going to give me 2.
That's the same with equal.
What?
That's the same when you put equal instead of.
It's the same. Yes, it's going to be the same.
Okay, thank you.
And then we have the double equal, which is actually a evaluate if A is, this is asking, is A equal to 2? That's what the double equal is, which you have here. Double equal is a logical operator. Okay.
Thank you.
And it also, so if A was 3, it's going to give you false. Okay. So, so the syllabs tells you that the observation, so Fernando is really good at commenting his codes. So if you read through, you also are able to tell mostly what he's doing. This means that only observations 25, 26, 36, 37, so on, live in the SMSA and are non-whites. So now he's creating a little column with those names so he can describe easily. So now he's describing, he's using the fact that he created the syllabs already with just the rows that are non-white and live in SMSA. And he created another column called wage, education, experience, and so on. And he can describe the wage of just the subset of syllabs and the variables, wage, education, and so on. So this is what this is doing now. And you have valid number 38, which is exactly the same as the length of syllab as we saw before. Okay, so it's describing a subset really. And now he does a describe, and he's showing you that it's the same as just calling upon certain rows, but here he's just doing the very first 4, 25, 26, 27, and 28 from syllabs. No, not even that. So he's now, so this next line here asks you to describe the wages of just those 4 observations, the education and the experience. So now I have a valid number of 4. Okay, now I want to show you something very weird that you might have. So now it's plot, and it's plotting salary against row. And the reason I can just do salary and row, so this is not actually calling from wage 1 anymore. This is calling to the data set that I attached before, which, if you remember, is the CEOSLA 1, sorry. So when I do the plot here, you can see now I have a problem. figure margins too large. This might happen every now and then, and it's extremely annoying, and some people might have that error. This just means that it's not being able to plot here. One solution, which is a stupid one, you just make this bigger and then it should run. Otherwise, you can always change the sizes of the margins. We're going to get to that later on how to change certain aspects of your plots. And me particularly, I prefer the ggplot, which is a very good package called ggplot2, and it has a function called ggplot, and you can make much more statical appealing graphs than that. So really, one of the main attributes of R is you are able to do beautiful graphs with it. So when you say just plot Y salary row, it's just really plotting salary against row. You see it has this little circles and points. You can change that. So that's the type P that is there. So if I do this again, it's still similar, but he changed some things, as you can see. So the plot Y salary row is the most basic way where you can call upon the function plot is by telling it what is Y and what is X. Those are the basic arguments you need on a function. And then if you go here on plot, generic XY plotting, you have X, Y, and then you have the par, which was a bunch of arguments that you can add to your plotting. So there are different things that you can do on plotting, but they're not necessary. You can add a title, you can add labs, you can change the type of plot that you have. And when you go on par here, really, these are all the graphical parameters that you could have, and seriously, there exists so many of them. So all of those are parameters that you could add. So let's say you want to change the color to be used for axis annotation. You can go and use call.axis and change the parameter of that by adding here a comma, call.axis equal, and then tell something different. And if you do not add that there, it just goes to the default, which is black. So also when you go on par, you can see what are the values of most of the defaults. So here, basically, the difference between the first plot, let me run the first again, and the second plot, and when you go around here, this is going to bring you back to the other plots you have. So the difference between the first and the second plot is basically, it's the same variables. You can see that it's the same values that are there. It's just those different parameters that I added. I added a title, and the title is here, main. This gives you the title. I changed the color, which is antique white now. This is the inside color of it. Or is it the PG? No, I don't even, I'm not sure. I changed the size of the lines, and I could, for example, so let's now say that I did the exact same thing, but I do not want a P, I want an L. This is going to be a mess because it makes absolutely no sense. So now I just changed it from a scatter plot to a line plot, which of course makes no sense for this data because this is not a time data at all. But anyways, this is just to show how small changes in the parameters of plot can change a bunch of stuff. Or if I went here and did red.
This recording is going to be on YouTube, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I have to go. I'll see you later.
Okay. Okay, so now we're actually finally getting to the most important function we have, which is LM. So LM fits, it's going to fit a linear model, and it's going to create, well, not because I didn't attach there, but LM gives you a linear model. And in this case, I'm trying to do a linear model with this plot that I saw here. So I see that it seems to be some correlation between these two variables, the salary and the, I think it's return on equities. And now I'm actually gonna see a model on that. In this model, the first two things you're gonna have is the intercept, and this is the coefficient of rho. So this is saying that you're doing a formula where you have salary is fit as being equal to 93632 plus 18.5 times rho. So this is the linear model that is being fit here. And I can actually create an object with that. And the object that an LM creates is a list. And a list is basically a object with many objects in itself. So it's a way of attaching to the same object multiple types of objects. So the first one you have is the coefficients, which tells you what are the two coefficients. So it saves within the object the coefficients of it, so the intercept and the coefficient to the independent variable, which is in this case just rho. It's going to have a second object within the object of the model, which is just the residuals. So for example, I could look into this residuals by, well, first let's do this. When you call upon, so LM is a very special type of function because it also, when you call upon it, it doesn't actually print down here the whole list with all of its attributes. It has in itself already, it knows what it's gonna give to you, and the summary the same. So when you say summary of an object created through the LM function, what you get is the residuals, the minimum, the first quartile, third quartile, so description of the residuals, the coefficients, the standard error t-value, the probability, which the intercept is actually very well fit here, but you actually do not have a significant result here for rho. And so this is very similar to what you get usually on an expected return of a fitting of an LM model in terms of what it describes. But basically for your exercises going on later, and this is something we're going to do next week, because he's going to ask you to do an LM model and interpret the results of a model using specific data, which is not this one. And we're going to do that. And one thing that he will want you to do is actually be able to return certain values. So he won't want you to just give, and by him, I mean Fernando, just copy and paste this. He actually wants specific things. So we need to go through how to call on specific things of this object list that was just created. So for example, if I want to look just into the coefficients, I can do 2, 3, and then of course add coefficients, and that gives me the coefficients. Or I could do the residuals. But if I want to, for example, this is giving me all of them, but if I want, for example, to get just the standard error of it, where is it? No, the summary, I would actually need to go on the summary of it and call upon specifically the standard error, which is the second column of the part of the coefficients that comes out on the summary. So it's not completely obvious how you would ask R to specifically print this value, instead of you having to know which function you need to call upon, and in this case is summary, so you can find the standard error of this. Or you would need to, for example, calculate by hand the standard error. So one thing I'm going to do next week when we go through the first exercise that he asks you to do is also go through ways of capturing specific values that exist on this object model, because this, as I said, this object model has so many things in it. It's going to have what is the number of observations, and all of those you can call upon and find somehow. But it's not that obvious how you get to each of them, given that this is a huge list with so many things. Everyone understands that?
Yes.
Okay. What else? Yeah, so basically the salary, you can also use class here. It's an LM. So these are different things. So this is telling you certain characteristics of this. So when you say mode X23, this is telling you what type of object this is. This is a list. But specifically the class of this list is, this is an LM list. So anyway, so this part here is just so we can understand what type of things these are, while salary was a numeric and wage one was also a list. And now we plot again the same thing, but you can add the fitted line. So when I actually plot, an AB line is adding a line to the plot. So it's just gonna draw something on top of this. When I do AB line this, it's already gonna plot exactly the fitted line. So this knows, it's very interesting because when you call the object as EX23, it gives you something completely different than when you use plot. It knows what you mean by the part of a EX23 that you want to call upon, and it's actually calling upon the fitted values of that, which if you wanted to call upon here, you might need to do fitted. Do you have that? Fitted values. So it's very interesting because the AB line, or if you did a plot, it already knows that what you plot is the fitted values of the model. Okay? Which you can also call upon. Okay, I think this is good for today because next we have just some other examples. You can get summary of other things. So this is, oh, sorry, no, this is the sum of residuals, which should be 0 if they're normally distributed. So you can start doing tests with things. Yeah, I'm not gonna go through the rest of this because it's just so many things. So this is doing creates a function, printing. Yeah, so this part here, so this part here, Fernando, if you want to go through it later, Fernando creates a function which specifically is going to print specific things from the model object. I don't know if I will be able to. Let me see. So this function that he creates here, besides when you look into the object now, besides giving you just, so when I do LM this, it gave me the formula and the coefficients. So here he also added the R2 and the number of observations. So we're going to do something similar next week as that. So this is a little bit closer to what he wants you to report, but he also wanted to report, I think, something about the errors. I can't remember right now, but there are other things. I think the standard error as well. So he also wants the standard errors. So you're gonna create a column, sorry, a table where you already extract all the things that you need. I went through with him what he wants from you. Okay. It's just so many things to go through at the same time. And I feel like we're going very slowly, but sometimes I also feel as if I'm going very fast through certain details. So it's a huge effort to be trying to do this online instead of being in person with everyone. So any feedback really with things that you think are not working in the way we're going through things because of the format of the class, do let me know. But next class, we're going to be a little bit more focused on something that you need. Any questions, comments, anything?
Just a quick question on So when you quit out of R and it says say, what does it mean when it says, do you want to save the workspace image?
So it would, I think it would save your environment, if I'm not mistaken. So it's asking if you want to save what happened here. And you would save that as an RDA. So when you later you would load it and you already would have all of the objects that you created here. Gotcha. So let's say you need to you need to, and sometimes this is extremely helpful because some, for example, if you are working with big surveys, it takes a while to load a big survey. So the first thing you would do is kind of trying to trim down to what you need, create subsets or create objects out of that. And then that part of the code, you do not want to have to run again because it takes a while and you want to already have an object that it's like that. And yeah, so it's basically you have different things happening here and it's asking you if you want to save this part of it instead of only saving this. So those are separate things. Any other questions, comments, suggestions? Those are very welcome.
I think it's pretty going good for me so far. Okay. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm like getting it quite effectively, and it's been really helpful. Yeah, thank you.
That's good to hear. It's just that doing it online, not seeing your faces, there is this alienation on my part where I really have absolutely no clue how effective this is being, and not knowing, and already teaching coding for a big class when people have different types of computers. And here we have so many different things, or different time schedules, and and different, anyways, it's just very hard for me to actually know how this is affecting everyone here. So please keep giving me feedback. And I'm completely open to criticisms or anything that can be improved. I also appreciate those comments. Okay, but for next week, I'm gonna send you the codes that you might, I need to prepare some stuff, but I think it would be helpful if everyone can try to finish running chapter 2 and run chapter 3 as well, and come to me if you have any questions on that. And I might try to already, I don't wanna give you the code with the answer to the exercise. I think it's going to be more helpful if that one we are coding together. I don't know how that's going to work because it can prompt a lot of errors, but I think that's going to be the best way of trying, because going forward, you really want to be able to code on your own answers to the exercises as well, right? Okay.
Are you going to send out the chapter 3 code so that we could run through that, or?
I can send that out, but actually the codes so everyone here is on Fernando's class. Every code in Fernando's class is on Moodle. So it would be helpful if from then on I can just tell you runs chapter 3, 4, 5 or something like that from Fernando's class, and it's on Moodle. I can add that to the email. Maybe we do that.
Okay. Yeah, I see it now actually.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
That's easier. But I'll also send class 2 from Tom, which should be on his Moodle, but because not everyone is in his class, you might not have it.
One of the things that I would just like to do maybe is, like, since I was reading the problem set for Tom's class, for the poverty class, and like just like how like the first number is like worded in like paragraph form, asking you to like create certain things. Like I just like don't even know like where I would start, like in terms of like thinking through the problem.
When is it due?
It's not due for another 2 weeks.
Okay, so I did not had in my mind the fact that there is also, I forgot about that. There is also a problem set in Tom's class and you need to do codes. Now I'm remembering he said that, and you need the codes to run with no errors. So this is something that I've been wondering, because I mean, 2 hours especially the beginning, we have so much to catch up on and get you to a certain level. And then be actually doing these things. And the fact that only half of you are on Tom's class is worrying me that I end up giving preference to Fernando's class. So I am also going to look, thank you for reminding me, Justin. I'm going to look into the next, the first problem set for Tom, and we can also work on that one together. I just need now to figure out how to, because now also there is the thing for Ajit's class, which of course is the beginning of October, but that's not that far off when we think about it. So how to adjust what needs to be covered and by when. And this is mostly why this beginning we're also running out of time every time and kind of going for the longer classes. But I hope eventually we'll be able to do things within the 2 hours and effectively. So I'll also look into that. And if I think we can fit that next week, we can do again half class Fernando, half class Tom. If I think we cannot fit that next week, I'll do on the following one, given that you still have 2 weeks, you said, right? Not
yeah.
next, but well, but if it's not next or the following, actually we only have one hour sessions until then, right?
Right, because it would be do that the day of the second or session.
Okay, so next week we'll be definitely going through the basics to do Tom's code and to do the first assignment for Fernando. I'll go through both of those next week, definitely. What we can do is that we start with Fernando and then do Tom, or start earlier, 9 a.m. or something, and those that are only on Tom's class can join a little earlier.
I think that would be great. Yeah.
So maybe I should start. I'm just thinking because I know Adama's not even here anymore, but I think she's also on Tom's class. I need to check that. And because it's just so late for her, I would give preference to trying to do Tom's earlier instead of just going later. Would everyone be okay with starting at 9 with Tom's part, and then at 10 a.m. those that are not on Tom's part class join?
There are 6 of us in Tom's class, correct?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
There are 6 of you. There are 6 of you. What I'm trying to figure out is if, because there are 3 people here, there are on the far east of the world, and we have 2 people in Nepal, and we have Adama who is in South Korea. And my main worry is I don't remember now if those 3 people are in Tom's class or not. If they are, I would give preference to doing Tom earlier than later.
1 second, I have the list of pairs of people.
I think I'm also in Tom's class.
You are
Yeah.
in Tom's class?
Yeah, but I'm just auditing. Yeah.
Okay. And you are in Nepal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, my main question is those that are here in the US, are you okay with doing Tom at 9 a.m., starting at 9 a.m. next week, doing Tom, and then we start with Fernando's at 10?
I mean, I'm good with that. Yeah. I don't know about everyone.
I'm good with that too.
Okay, so I'll send an email saying that. So let's do that.
Tom's class is Adama, Andres, Beth, Justin, me, Tom, and Tyrone.
Yeah, so Adama is there and she's on the far. I wanna try to adjust as much as I can of the schedule because I know that's very. So we have people in Nepal and they are. So we should start at 9. So yeah, so let's do that. I'll send an email explaining that that's what we're doing next week. For those that are not on Tom's class, just come at 10. For those that want to know what to do for Tom's class, we start at 9. And hopefully, once we've catched up with many things, we are able to eventually even have sessions that are just for those on Tom classes and sessions for those in Fernando and separate. Just we have more demands in the beginning of the semester than we're going to have going forward, I think. Okay. It was very nice to see you all here today. And if you have any questions, please do email me and I will send you shortly an email with more info for next week.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luiza. Have a nice
Thank
weekend,
you.
everyone. Try to enjoy it.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Luisa.
Yes.
Hi. I was wondering, is it okay if I